if we recall our previous session, then we derived natural frequency equation for simple pendulum using Newton's approach and energy approach. Now, today we will discuss what will be change in the natural frequency if we consider mass of spring. Because if you recall, so far we are not consider mass of spring member. The reason is that mass is negligible compared to other lump mass. So that's why to reduce complexities, we generally ignore mass of spring, because purpose of spring is to give restoration with very less amount of inertia. That's why we ignore it. But let's see today, if we consider mass of spring, then what change we get in the natural frequency of spring mass system. So to understand that, today we will use energy approach. So let us consider, first of all, one spring mass system. At the end of this spring, we consider one mass, right? Now, length of spring is L from this fixed end to this free end. So length is small L. And we consider this position of mass as a mean position where x is equal to 0. And we are using coordinate x for displacement measurement of this mass when the spring mass system is under vibration. So this end is free. So let me write first of all, if we don't consider spring mass, then we know natural frequency of spring mass system is square root k by n, right? Radian per second. If we neglect spring mass, and this is the natural frequency equation, right? K is stiffness of spring and m is this lump mass which is connected at the end of free end of spring, right? Now let me consider one small element on spring end. Let me call a small element. This small element I am assuming as dy, right? At a distance, I assume distance of this small element, spring element, is y from the fixed end, right? Now, if m is mass at free end and ms I assume mass of spring, it's a total mass of spring, right? Now, if you recall, in case of spring, what we assume when we pull this spring, then under extension of spring, each and every coil that participates, right? Means if you call delta is the deflection of spring, then that delta is by small deflection of each and every turn of spring, right? And we assume spring deformation that is linear. So this is our assumption, because in general stiffness of spring is linear up to certain extent. After that, that is non-linear. But we assume deflection of spring is linear. So we assume that each and every turn that deflects with same length, right? So with that assumption, what we assume, if you say at the end of the spring, if you consider x deflection, deflection is x at the end, at this end. So spring is having length L. So if L is the length of spring, and if you give x deflection to this spring by pulling this down, then what should be the deflection at y position? What should be the deflection at y position? So simply it's a cross multiplication. The reason is we have considered linear deformation. So this is our linear deformation. So this is our assumption, right? So you want to know what is the deflection at this point where we have considered dy element of this spring, right? So that we can say deflection at that point is its distance, deflection of spring its distance y is nothing but y by this x, sorry, multiplication, so y into x by L, right? Based on linear deformation assumption, right? So this is what the deflection at point y. When we pull this mass by x distance, this is our coordinate to define position of this mass, right? Now, if this is the displacement at y position, then what is the velocity at y position? So straight away we can say velocity of spring at distance y. Then simply we know, again it's a linear assumption, so we call this y x dot by L based on this assumption. If displacement is this, then as we know, we need to differentiate this equation one time with respect to time, then that will give us velocity. So we have just consider x dot, one time differentiation of x. So this is what the velocity at point y, right? Now let us apply the energy principle. So now we are applying energy principle to derive natural frequency of spring mass system when we consider mass of spring as well. So with this assumption now, if we apply energy principle, our first step is to write kinetic energy, right? So kinetic energy of mass first. What is the kinetic energy of mass? It's a 1 by 2, mass is m, velocity is x dot square, plus now we are also considering mass of spring, so plus now we need to consider kinetic energy of spring mass. So I'm writing here 1/2 mass of spring, total mass of spring when we consider L length. Now I want to find out mass for unit length, mass of spring per length. Then I need to consider divide by L, because total L length spring that is having mass ms. I want to find out mass of spring per unit length, then ms by L, right? So this is our assumption. Okay, so what is the mass of dy element? Because this is ms by L, mass of spring per unit length. Now what is the mass for length dy? So I need to multiply it by dy, right? And I need to integrate it, because now I have considered dy element, but element wise now I do integration so that I get total kinetic energy, right? So I consider this from y is equals to 0, because y coordinate is used to indicate length of spring now. So y is equals to 0 to y is equals to L, right? From this fixed end to free end, length of spring is L. So y coordinate, y is equals to 0 to y is equals to L. Now 1/2, this is mass of device element, right? So mass into velocity of device element, so that is given here, right? So I consider velocity of device element, so that is y x dot L, and it's a mv square, so velocity square. So I consider velocity square, right? So this we can say total kinetic energy. So far we are not considering this term because we are ignoring mass of spring. We are not considering mass of spring. But now we have considered here mass of spring as well. So that's why this term is present here, right? Now let us integrate this then. So this term is as it is 1/2 mx dot square is as it is plus. Now see which are the constants, ms, l, x dot L. These are the constants. 1/2 is also constant. So let us take this out. 1/2 ms L is constant. And see here, this x dot square L square. So these constants are taken out. And now I consider only in integration from y is equals to 0 to y is equals to L. Only I consider, see, this is y square dy, right? So all the constants are taken out. Now let us further integrate this. 1/2, this term is as it is, plus 1/2 mxl x dot square L square. Now if you integrate this, then we get y3 y cube divided by 3, right? This is the integration of y square with respect to dy, and I need to give limit 0 to L, right? Now if you put limit here, then we get here L cube, right? What we get here, L cube minus 0. So L cube by 3 is the result of this integration after giving limit. So we have L cube here, we have L cube here. So that L cube, that will cancel out and 3 will come out. So now final equation we can say kinetic energy, total kinetic energy for lump mass at the end of free end of spring, and this is spring mass. So I write here 1/2 mx dot square plus 1/2 ms, and now 3 into 2, that will be 6. So let me assume here as it is ms by 3 into x dot square. So this I can say kinetic energy equation. I call this 1 star, right? So I call this 1 star. So we got kinetic energy while we consider spring mass. Now let us write potential energy equation for spring mass system. So now we are writing potential energy equation. Potential energy. So potential energy is as it is 1/2 kx square. This is the potential energy for spring that we know, we have used so many times this equation. Now as we are applying energy principle, so as per energy principle, kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to constant. So let us now put values. So kinetic energy is here, star equation. So this is kinetic energy equation. So I put this kinetic energy here. So we get 1/2 mx dot square plus 1 half ms by 3 x dot square plus now potential energy. So that is 1 half kx square is equal to constant. Right? Now we have used this method so many times. So we know our next step is to differentiate this equation with respect to time. So let us differentiate then. If we differentiate this equation with respect to time, then we get here 2 come down the scale. So q2 and x dot is again differentiated, then velocity becomes acceleration. Plus 2 come down, so q2, this is constant, so as it is, and x dot again differentiated, then x double dot, plus 2 come down, so 2 by 2, kx, x again differentiated, then x dot, velocity, is equal to constant, so differentiation of constant is 0, right? Now, if you look here, just cancel out 2 from all these 3 terms, and now, if you look, if you see, x dot is common, so let us common and shift it on right side, so 0 by some positive value, that becomes 0. Then our final equation, I would say mx double dot plus mx by 3 spring mass, third part of spring mass, x double dot plus kx is equal to 0. Now let's take this x double dot common, then we get overall mass, so m plus mx by 3 x double dot plus kx is equal to 0. Now let us divide this entire equation by multiplier of this x double dot inside this bracket. Then what we get, x double dot plus k by this entire bracket, which is m plus ms by 3 into x is equal to 0. Now this is what this bracket, which is multiplier of displacement x, that represents omega n square. So let us write omega n square is equal to k by m plus ms by 3, right? So now omega n becomes square root k by m plus ms by 3 radian per second, right? So if you compare this with the nature frequency equation, when we ignore mass of string, then simply it's a square k by m. But now one new term is added as a denominator. So if we consider spring mass, then what we get? We get reduction in initial frequency of spring mass system, because we are not considering here spring mass. But if you consider spring mass, then denominator is more. So if I call this omega n dash, when we are not considering spring mass, then omega n dash is greater than omega n, right? So if you consider spring mass, then you get less natural frequency compared to this natural frequency, right? So this is what the modification in the frequency, natural frequency equation, if we consider spring mass, right? So I hope that is clear. Now our next topic for today's discussion further is, as in the history part we have discussed, natural frequency omega n is independent on initial conditions, means how much initial velocity you are giving, or how much initial displacement you are giving, or how much initial velocity you are giving. But natural frequency is independent on this. This is what Galileo observed, right? and experimentally he has proved this. But today we will try to apply physics on this, why this is happening here, because the straight away answer is, if you see the omega n equation, it's only depending on k and n. There is no term like x, v. This initial condition terms are not given here. So mathematically it is proved. The natural frequency of system is only depending on stiffness as mass, not depending on initial condition x and y. But let us try to take more insight. So if you look here, if you consider spring mass system, this is spring, and now I consider one mass at the end. Now if I pull this by distance capital X downward, then this spring that will store some opposite strain energy. So that's why what we tell m x double dot, which is acceleration given to this mass when we displace this mass by distance x. So let me write here capital X double dot, that is suppose acceleration, right? So mx double dot, at that time some spring force will be stored by this spring. So that spring force, suppose I call Fs1, right? That spring force we call Fs1, and I call this x1. So x1 double dot, that is the acceleration, right? And this is the strain energy stored in this spring. Now, if we consider this spring or this mass is displaced by x2, means I assume x2 is twice of x1. x2 is twice of x1. Then what happens is, if you look here, if I do that, then in this case mx2 double dot, that is the acceleration given to this, at the same time equals to this spring will store some force. So this, it's obvious, if x2 double dot is more than x1 double dot, then fs2, that definitely more than fs1. So fs2 is also greater than fs1, right? So what happened is, acceleration x2 double dot is greater than x1 double dot. So what happened now, as you pull this mass by x2 distance, and if you release this, then acceleration x2 double dot is more than x1 double dot. Then speed of this mass to complete this oscillations will be more, right? So anyhow, what this system is trying to do, for less displacement, less speed of vibration, but for more displacement, more speed of vibration, right? So anyhow, what is tried here, anyhow we are trying to manage this cycle, time period of this cycle constant. This time period will remain constant, because more acceleration, more distance is given, so more acceleration is present. So it will try to cover this double distance with double speed. So in that way, system is trying to maintain time period constant, right? And that's why natural frequency of spring mass system, or the time period of spring mass system, is independent of initial condition x and y. It is only depending on system property like k and m, right? So that's why we can say natural frequency is independent of xy, and this is the reason, because acceleration is also more if you give distance more, and if acceleration is more, then velocity will be more, right? So this is the insight behind the experimental evidence. This is the reason why system natural frequency remain constant with whatever the initial condition, right? So we keep up to this. If you have any doubt, any query, then you can ask. Karthik, Divyam, Janish, if you have any query, then you can ask now.
No, sir.
સર આપણે તમારા બધા લેક્ચર્સ છે તમે ડ્રાઈવ પર અપલોડ કરી દેશો સર?
Lectures means એટલે lecture notes.
ના recording
રેકોર્ડેડ લેક્ચર્સ બે મૂકેલા છે છેલ્લા. બીજા એવું હશે તો હું જોઈ લઈશ, અપલોડ કરી દઈશ જે પેલી યુટ્યુબ ચેનલ છે એના ઉપર, ત્યાંથી એક્સેસ કરશો તમે પછી, બરાબર?
હા સર એવું કરજો ને, વાંધો નહીં.
ઓકે વાંધો નહીં, તો હું એ અપલોડ કરી દઈશ લેક્ચર.
એટલે અમે શું કે પછી રિફર કરો તો ડાયરેક્ટ એમાં રિફર કરી દઈએ તો વાંધો ના આવે.
હા વાંધો નહીં. આમાં કઈ ડાઉટ હોય આજના લેક્ચરમાં તો?
ના સર હમણાં તો નથી, જ્યારે પાછું રિફર કરવાનું થાય તો કદાચ આવે ત્યારે પૂછી લઈશું.
કે કેમ નેચરલ ફ્રીક્વન્સી ઇનિશિયલ કન્ડિશન ઉપર ડિપેન્ડન્ટ નથી હોતી?
સર શું કીધું સર?
નેચરલ ફ્રીક્વન્સી ઇનિશિયલ કન્ડિશન ઉપર ડિપેન્ડન્ટ નથી હોતી, એ ક્લિયર થઈ ગયું? એના માટે આપણે ડિસ્કસ કર્યું કે નેચરલ ફ્રીક્વન્સી છે એ તમે શું એક્સ ને શું વી આપ્યું છે પહેલા એના ઉપર ડિપેન્ડન્ટ નહીં હોય, કારણ કે જેટલું તમે એક્સ વધારે આપશો એટલું એ એક્સેલરેશન વધારે લેશે. એટલે એની હાવ એ શું કરશે, વધારે ડિસ્પ્લેસમેન્ટ તો વધારે સ્પીડ થી પાછું જશે, એટલે ટાઈમ પીરિયડ ને કોન્સ્ટન્ટ રાખવાનો ટ્રાય કરશે.
ઓકે સર.
એટલે એના લીધે તમારી ફ્રીક્વન્સી કદી બદલાશે નહીં. એટલે તમે ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ ગઈ વખતે આપણી વાત થઈ હતી, કાર્તિકે એક સારો ક્વેશ્ચન પૂછ્યો હતો કે તમે બોલને ડ્રોપ કરો ફ્લોર ઉપર, બરાબર, તો શું એની ફ્રીક્વન્સી શું એના વાઇબ્રેશન કેવા છે ને એની બી નેચરલ ફ્રીક્વન્સી હશે? તો એનો આન્સર છે તમે કોઈ બી હાઈટ ઉપરથી બોલને સિમ્પલી ડ્રોપ કરી દો. તમે એવું વિચારશો કે હાઈટ સપોઝ વધારે છે તો એ વધારે ટાઈમ પીરિયડ અથવા વધારે ફ્રીક્વન્સીથી વાઇબ્રેટ થશે, પણ એવું ના હોય. તમે કોઈ બી હાઈટ ઉપરથી બોલને છોડશો, સિમ્પલી ડ્રોપ કરશો, તેની ફ્રીક્વન્સી નહીં બદલાય. હા, શું બદલાશે એ અમુક વખતે તમારો જે સપોઝ તમારી હાઈટ તમે વધારે આપી છે, ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ if this is the floor, once I drop ball a certain height h is this height that I call h, બરાબર? તો ડ્યુ ટુ ધીસ આને સપોઝ પોટેન્શિયલ એનર્જી વધારે સ્ટોર કરી છે, તો તમને એવું મળે કે સપોઝ બોલ 3 વખત એટલે આ રીતનું હશે, એક વખત આ રીતે પથરાશે, બીજી વખત અને ત્રીજી વખત આ રીતે ડેમ્પ આઉટ થઈ ગયું. હવે same floor, but now if I increase h, I call this suppose h dash, જે વધારે હાઈટ છે તમે અહીંથી ડ્રોપ કરશો તો કદાચ એવું થશે કે આ હાઈટ પહેલા વધારે લેશે, અને મે બી એવું થાય કે તમે વધારે હાઈટથી ડ્રોપ કર્યું તો તમને 4 કે 5 સ્ટેપ મળે, બરાબર? પણ વધારે વખત બોલ પછડાવો ધેટ ઇઝ નોટ ફ્રીક્વન્સી. ફ્રીક્વન્સી શું છે કે તમે પર યુનિટ ટાઈમ કેટલા ઓસિલેશન થાય, અથવા તો ટાઈમ પીરિયડ શું છે કે કેટલા ટાઈમમાં એક સાયકલ કમ્પ્લીટ થાય. તો બે કેસના અંદર આ જે સાયકલ કમ્પ્લીટ થવાનો જે ટાઈમ છે એ સેમ રહેશે. હા, કદાચ એવું થાય કે તમે હાઈટ વધારે આપી છે તો ઓબ્વિયસલી એ શું કરશે, બહુ બધી વખત બોલના ટેપ્સ તમને વધારે મળશે, પણ એનો જે ટાઈમ પીરિયડ હોય એ ચેન્જ ના થાય. એટલા માટે મેં કીધું હતું કે તમે એક વખત પ્રેક્ટિકલી મેઝર કરજો, બોલને ગમે તે હાઈટ ઉપરથી છોડ દેજો અને એની તમે ફ્રીક્વન્સી મેઝર કરજો. એટલે ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ 5 વખત બોલ પછડાય તો એના માટે તમે ટાઈમ આખું મેઝર કરો અને ડિવાઈડ બાય 5 કરશો તો તમને ટાઈમ પીરિયડ મળી જશે. તો એ રીતે તમે હાઈટ રાખો, બોલને છોડ દો ફરીથી, અને ફરીથી 5 વખત બોલ પછડાય એના માટે ટાઈમ મેઝર કરો, ટોટલ ટાઈમ, અને ડિવાઈડ બાય સાયકલ્સ કરી નાખો, એટલે ડિવાઈડ બાય 5 કરી નાખો, તો ફરીથી તમને નેચરલ ફ્રીક્વન્સી મળશે. તો બે કેસમાં frequency more or less તમને same મળે, right? એટલે initial condition ઉપર frequency dependent, frequency અથવા time period dependent નથી હોતો, બરાબર? તો આપણે અત્યારે પ્રેક્ટિકલ નથી કરી શકતા કારણ કે ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યૂટમાં છીએ નહીં, પણ તમે ઘરે આ રીતે ટ્રાય કરી શકો છો, just for verification of this theory, બરાબર? Fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me discuss one small topic. So far what we have seen, we have seen only one spring element and one mass element, but sometimes you find some system where you have more than one spring element or mass element, but still those systems are single degree of freedom systems, right? So before moving to those type of problems, let us first of all understand, if more springs are connected, then what would be the effect of overall stiffness, right? So to understand that, let us consider springs which are connected in series. Means we have number of springs which are connected in series. The springs are connected in series, right? If springs are connected in series, let me consider two springs. This is spring 1. I call this K1, and one another spring. This is the joining point. Now consider one another spring which has some other stiffness K2. These two are connected in series in one line, right? And now just assume this K1 and K2 both are different, stiffness are different, and if you assume some force is given at the end of free end of this K2 spring, then what happens? That force will be applied on both, right? And due to that, suppose this spring, this combined spring that displaced by distance x, right? So x is the total deflection of spring. Then this x is due to some deflection in K1 spring as well as some deflection in K2 spring. So deflection in K1 spring I am taking x1, and deflection in K2 spring we are taking x2, right? But this two addition, they will give me combined deflection of spring at the end of K2, right? Now due to this, what happens, as we know, F, what is the stiffness equation? If I write stiffness equation, means K is equal to F by X, right? Stiffness is what? Force per unit deflection, right? So I write here, this is total deflection of combined springs. Then I call this, because F is applied here, so F is same on both the springs. Both the springs are experiencing same value of F. So F by, let me write this equation in terms of X. Then X is equal to F by K, that I can write. So I write here, instead of X in this entire equation, instead of X, I am writing this in terms of force and stiffness. So F by K equivalent means combined stiffness of both the springs is equals to x1. So I write force is experienced by both the spring is same. So F by K1 plus F by K2. So if you see, F is common, so that will be cancelled out. So the final equation is 1 by K equivalent 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2, right? So this is what the combined stiffness if you connect springs in series. So So suppose if you now assume n number of springs, means after 2 I have third spring, fourth spring, and then suppose if we are giving 4, then in general we can say this 1 by k equivalent is nothing but sigma I stands for number of springs you connect in series. So I1 to n divided by 1 by ki. So this is what we can say. Equivalent stiffness of spring when we connect those in series, right? So if we have 3 number of springs, then 1 by k equivalent is equal to 1 by k1 plus 1 by k2 plus 1 by k3, like that. This is given in generalized form. Similarly now, if you consider springs are connected in parallel. Springs are connected in parallel. Now, this is our fixed end. We consider one spring with stiffness K1, and we consider second spring with stiffness K2, and at this end both are connected, and then if I come to this both the free ends, I give force F, common force F, right? Then if I pull this, then the spring will deflect by some distance x. Then this x deflection is present in both. Means if I show you deflected position, then this K1 spring that will deflect. Initially n was here, but now it is deflect by x1 distance, and this K2 will also deflect from this end to x2. But if you look due to this force F, then we can say both the springs they will deflect x1 and x2, but both are same. x1 is equals to x2, right? When deflection is x, then x is equals to x1 is equals to x2. Both the springs will deflect by same amount, right? But both will now not experience same force. Both will experience different force. Here, both the springs they are experiencing same force because they were in series. But now here, both are in parallel connection, right? So force experienced by overall force F is equals to F1 plus F2, right? Now let us write this F1 and F2 in terms of this stiffness. So let me here again write, if I want to write equation in terms of F, then F is equals to Kx, right? So for overall force F is equals to, I write K equivalent X is equals to F1. Then F1 is force experienced by K1 stiffness spring. Then I write here K1 X1, but X1 and X both are same. So I write here K1x because both are same. Both the spring will deflect by same amount, plus F2 is, as per this equation, K2 x2, but K2 into x2, but x2 is equals to x, right? So if springs are connected in parallel, then combined stiffness or equivalent stiffness is sum of individual spring stiffness. It's the K equivalent K1 plus K2. So in general, suppose if I want to write equation, then K equivalent is equal to sigma I1 to n Ki, right? It's the addition of stiffness of separate springs. If 3 number of springs are present, then K equivalent is K1 plus K2 plus K3. Means if now if I consider here one more spring with stiffness K3, then overall stiffness of this entire system will be K1 plus K2 plus K3. Likewise, if you add 4, then K4, right? So if you add springs in parallel connection, the stiffness of combined system will go on increasing. But if you connect spring in series, then stiffness of this entire system will reduce actually, because K equivalent will be less compared to K1 and K2 individually, right? So this is what the effect, overall effect on stiffness if you add spring in series and in parallel, right? So we keep up to this. In next lecture, we'll discuss if more number of masses and more number of springs are connected, but if system is single degree of freedom, then how to find out mutual frequency of system. Okay, so is there any